All right. Okay, so let's get going. And so we're going to talk, like I said, we're going to talk about searching with Foundation Directory Online. And I actually removed the word online because Candid, who runs Foundation Directory, they actually have said that they are going to be dropping the word online in the near future. And they actually have told me that they're going to redesign it as well. I haven't gotten a date for when the redesign is going to happen, but hopefully maybe I'll hear next month. So real quick, we did our introductions. Give a quick little overview, and we'll talk about some of the definitions that you might find in Foundation Directory. We'll talk briefly about grants, just again, another review from what I talked about before, and kind of just walk through a little bit about Foundation Directory. I'm going to talk about 990s and discuss the differences between the professional version and the essential version, and then we're going to practice. So we already did that. So, Foundation Directory, and I haven't changed all my slides yet, so it still says Foundation Directory Online. It is run by Candid, and they're actually a relatively new nonprofit, started just a few years ago. They used to be called the Foundation Center, and they merged with GuideStar and became Candid. And Candid themselves, they are a 501c3. And basically, Foundation Directory Online, I always tell people it's kind of the Rolls-Royce of grant-seeking databases. And it has just a huge amount of information. And that's one of the things that I would say is the biggest problem is you can really get down so many rabbit holes when you're searching for grants. And hopefully I'm going to be able to show you the best search strategies for when you are working in Foundation Directory Online. But it's updated daily, so it's so current, and you can search for funders, for grants, for recipients. You can look up individuals, you can look up companies, different nonprofits. So there's so many different search mechanisms within FDO. So just a quick recap from the introductory class, and you should have gotten in my handouts kind of the 10 takeaways for grants. And number one, of course, is that even though we are talking about searching for grants, you can't survive just on grants alone, right? You need to have multiple income streams for your organizations. Of course, grants are an important part, but you don't want to forget about individual contributions and other types of funding streams. Not all foundations are the same. So corporate foundations are going to be different than private foundations. A reminder that foundations have to give money away, right? By the definition from the IRS, they have to give at least 5% away every year. So we are hoping that they are going, these foundations are going to find your organizations and want to provide funding for them. Grant writing is never about the need of your specific or the need about you, right? You're always going to think about the community in which you serve and how can you support them. Always, always, always do lots of research and homework before you apply for any grant. And one size fits all just isn't going to work, right? You need to find that funder that's going to match your organization. You want to look at the mission and vision of the funder and see how it fits with your organization. And that leads to, you know, to get a grant, you have to find that perfect match. You also need to know exactly how much money you're going to need. I worked with an organization not that long ago, and they said, well, we just need money. And I said, well, what do you need money for? What projects do you have? And they didn't have anything lined up. But as we talked, they mentioned to me, oh, well, we need funding for a new roof. We need funding for electricity. This was an orphanage in Africa. And so we were able to break down their specific needs. And then I sent them away with the homework of figuring out how much they need for each of those projects. And then we were able to work on looking for grants for each of those projects. You don't need to know someone to get a grant, but it certainly can help get your foot in the door. So again, maybe somebody from your board can reach out to a funder because they know somebody on the funder's board. Sometimes that can help. And of course, the proposal is typically not the first thing a foundation wants. You're going to find out when you do your homework what the funder wants as the initial approach. Anybody have any questions about that? Feel free to either put your questions in chat or unmute and ask, or of course you can hold your questions to the end, whatever you're most comfortable with. So some of these slides I'm actually not going to really go through because I'm going to send you these slides after I get the recording sent. From now on, what I'm doing actually is I have a YouTube channel that's part of the Pikes Peak Library District YouTube channel. So I'm going to have my own little offshoot channel. And so all my recordings are going to go there. So as soon as I get that up on our YouTube channel, you'll get the link to that. But you will also have these slides so you can go back to them, because a lot of this is just sort of like how to search for foundation directory, how to search in the directory. And so this is just sort of a recap if you want to go back. So this is just talking about like, how can you do a quick and simple search? And we're going to walk all through this live, but there is going to be a single search box and you can just put in a simple sentence and start your search off that way. We're going to be walking through how to do an advanced search. But again, this is a great little quick guide that you can refer back to. So when you are going to go to Foundation Directory Online, this is a screenshot of what our database page looks like, and it is alphabetical. And so first you're going to see Colorado Grants Guide, and then you're going to see Foundation Directory Online. And you're also going to see this box that says this database is only available at the Penrose Library. So the full professional version of Foundation Directory Online is only available if you are either on one of the Penrose Library computers or you bring your own laptop into the library and you're on our Wi-Fi. Honestly, you could be in our parking lot and on our Wi-Fi and you can access FDO. So this is what you're going to see if you decide to search in Essential. I just wanted to point out that Essential, you're going to know that because it's the orange word Essential is going to be right there in the upper left-hand corner. And Professional, as you see, it's going to be, the same thing, just different wording there. And because they look identical, but we're going to talk about what the differences are in a little bit. So this is what an advanced search looks like. And again, this is one way that you can conduct a search. And your results, you will see, you know, the grant, how many grant makers, how many grants, how many recipients, and how many 990 tax forms. And again, we're going to go through all of this in person, but let's see. I was just looking at my notes to see if I was forgetting anything. And again, when you are doing your search, you need to really evaluate your needs. So the first thing, do I meet this funder's requirements? Is my mission or project goal a priority for this funder? How big are the grants? And we're going to be able to see where we can find all this information. Does this funder support organizations like mine? Again, we'll talk about this. This is a great way to search. And maybe do I know anybody associated with this funder? And I'm gonna, oh, good. I'm glad, Patricia, glad to have you join us. And it is being recorded, just in case you were wondering. So this is what you're gonna see when you access a funder's profile. The first thing, these are going to be, your options, and you're going to be able to see the applications and the limitations, and if there's any RFPs, which stands for request for proposals. And this is what you're going to be able to see this now. If you are in professional, you'll be able to get more detail on these different charts. If you are on essential, you will not be able to. So that's one of the differences right there. With professional, you'll be able to see past grants and who has received grants from this particular funder. And the way it's sorted, your results will be by grant count. So those foundations that have given away the greatest number of grants within your search categories are going to be listed first. This is kind of like an Excel spreadsheet, and that you actually can sort your results however you would like. So for whatever reason, if you would like to sort it by total assets, you absolutely could do that. There's going to be a section to see who's on the board. There's usually, but not always, a section that will tell you other funders that are similar, and you might want to go and look at those funders as well. And then there's going to be a section where you can access the funders 990s. And I just want to actually, I'm going to put it in the chat real quick. I have a couple of handouts about 990s, and let me get into the chat and put those in there. So just hang on just a second. That's interesting. I should have had this up earlier. I just thought of it. Maybe it won't let me. Interesting. It's not giving me the option to just upload a file. Well, you know what? Instead of hanging on to this, what I'm going to do is I'll send them to you. But what I have, and they're not my handouts that I created, but they're handouts from Candid, and they're a little dated just because it says grant space on it on these handouts instead of Foundation Directory Online. But they are really wonderful in explaining what a 990 contains and what you should consider when you're reading a 990 and what additional information you can get from a 990. And if your organization hasn't thought about the importance of a 990, these two handouts really talk about what you should be thinking about when you fill in your 990, because foundations and other donors, maybe that you don't approach, but maybe they're looking to find somebody, they may look at your 990s. When you apply for a grant, those funders may look at your 990s as part of their due diligence in making a decision about whether to fund you or not. And so it is really important that your 990s are up to date. And well, you really can't get, you'll get, the IRS will come after you if your 990s aren't up to date, but that your fields are filled in such a way that it's still telling a story about your organization. Because like I said, funders and maybe donors will be potentially looking at your 990 since they're public. So here also is some additional information about why 990s are important to you and your organization. And so when you have time, I recommend going to these two links and looking again about 990s since they are so important. Oops, that is old. Nobody's feeding their meters today. So now I want to talk briefly about what Foundation Directory Essential is. So I've briefly mentioned that we have Foundation Directory Online Professional and Foundation Directory Essential. Now, Professional is the one that I said you needed to be in the Penrose Library or on our Wi-Fi in order to access that. And when you access Professional, you're accessing the entire database. Essential is kind of a pared down version of the database. You can access funders, and that's it. You can't go and look at past recipients, and you can't look at grants, and you can't dive deep into those charts. But many people still really like the option of just being able to, work from home or search from work, and are okay with just starting a search looking at funders. And I think that's a great option. In order to do that, you will need to create an account with Foundation Directory, and it's going to ask for these 5 things. It says EIN is not required, but it's going to ask you for this information. And I'm going to show you where on the library's database page you would get access to Essential. A couple things that are a little different. What happens is you get 24 hours, 1 day a month. So that's 24 consecutive hours. So what I recommend is if you're going to be using Essential, that you maybe log on at, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you do, because none of us are going to be searching for 24 hours straight, but maybe you do several hours of searching, and then you come back the next morning and continue with your searching. And what happens is there's going to be a clock that pops up that tells you how many hours and minutes you have left in your session. And when your session ends, it's going to tell you what day and time you can log back on again. So that is your option with Essential. And a couple things, though, that they are kind of saying as like, good reasons. So maybe we aren't going to provide you with, fabulous all the time access. But what they are saying is that, well, we're going to let you create your with your own account. You're also going to be able to have a couple extra additions. And one thing is that you can you can rate the prospect. And so that gives you an option. You can't do that if you are on the library's professional version. And you're also going to be able to have your own dashboard. And so you can monitor your projects and your prospects and your grant proposals and tasks. And so that is really nice. But again, right, you only have access to your dashboard one day a month. So you have to decide if that's going to be the right fit for you. So now we're going to practice. And there's a couple things that you have the option of doing. And I mentioned in my email that if you have a library card, you can, you could create right now your own FDO Essential account. I also have a login that I can give you guys if you'd like, or we can just work on this together. It's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to go to ppld.org, and if you guys are following along, you too can head over. And the first thing we're going to see right here, I'm going to point out, is our research tab. And when you select the research tab, up's going to pop all of our different research subjects. And you can always access any of our databases by going to our All Databases tab. It's and what you get when you go to that tab is going to be an alphabetical listing of all our databases. I generally steer people to my nonprofit resources page because our databases are all lumped together all on one page in an easy, accessible way. So when you come to my page, you get a little bit of information. My contact information is always here. And so you're always welcome to come to this page because you've forgotten my name, you've forgotten how to get a hold of me. Come to this page. Also, I'll just point out my research tab here has some guides on things like starting a nonprofit and grant research. And when you select the grant research tab, it does have information here and reminders on how to search. And there's also a short video about searching. And so I'm going to go back and hit the database tab here. And when I select the database tab, up again comes all of our databases for nonprofits all in one spot. There's that Colorado Grants Guide that many of you were with me last time. If you want to try Essential, you're going to select this hyperlink right here. And when you go there, it's going to ask you to put in an email. and then it's going to walk you through the process of creating that account. So maybe you want to save that for later. It's, it's up to you. Foundation Directory Online Professional. If you were in the library again, you would select this link. And then grants to individuals, that's also run by Candid, but that's going to be for those people who are looking for, say, maybe you're a independent musician or artist and you're looking for a scholarship or a fellowship or an internship or grant money, you're going to use this tab. So I'm going to go into Foundation Directory Online Professional unless anyone has any questions. And that username and password that I gave you, that will allow you to get into Professional for today. I am VPN'd into the library, so it's not going to ask me for any credentials, just to let you know. Now, stop me if anybody needs any clarification on anything or how I got somewhere. I'm always happy to show how I got here again. Okay, so again, we see that we're in Professional. And here's that simple search bar. So again, you could just start your search by putting in, here's an example, animal shelter in Portland, Maine, food pantry in Dallas. So you could start your search that way. I really prefer to design my own search. I feel like I get a much better response. So I'll just point out down here, there's a video that talks, gives you some tips, and they always have a little bit of information on their blog down here. Again, some information specific to Colorado can be found, and their contact information and their help, which is really actually pretty handy. They are on East Coast time, so if you are wanting to chat with them, up here in the right-hand corner, you can get chat help here, and here's some guides and contact as well. They have their own librarians who are really great. They often need 24 to 48 hour turnaround, but sometimes you can get somebody in chat instantaneously to help you out. I'm going to go here to Advanced Search and Filters, and when I select that, I get this screen here. And we can select additional filters as well, and that brings up more. So before we do a search, I'm just going to talk about what each of these boxes do. The subject area, that's pretty similar, and just like with Colorado Grants Guide, this is going to be what we're looking for funding for. And if you see one of these carrots, it's going to open up to even more topics. And one of the handouts I gave you gives all the taxonomy and the subject areas for Colorado Grants Guide. So if you are somebody who doesn't want to click around a whole lot, you want something right in front of you, go ahead and use, print out those handouts I gave you, and you can kind of go through and give yourselves a good idea of what all options you have. So, and again, with any of these boxes, you can just start typing in, or you can select a box. The geographic focus, not to be confused with location. Geographic focus, as it says here in the box, is where the funding is going to take place. Population served, so who is affected? Who is your community? And so again, same thing, lots of drop-down boxes. Now this second line is going to be different, and I generally don't use that if I am conducting a search for funding. But maybe you want to look up an organization. And that could be either a funder or a recipient. Maybe you want to look up an organization that does similar work to you because you want to see who's funding them. You can do that here. You can look up a name. The location is going to be the location of who you're looking up. So that will be either the grant maker or recipient. And so you could just say, gosh, I want to know about funders in Colorado. You could, you're going to get a big result, a ton of results, but you could just do that here. Who's who? You were at a party, you met somebody, you can't remember what organization they're from. You could maybe look them up. And this is going to link out to LinkedIn if that individual has a LinkedIn account. So support strategy. So, you click on that, maybe you're really only looking for funders who are going to support, capital and infrastructure. You need a new roof for your church. You could select capital and infrastructure. Some people maybe are looking for only employee matching gifts. All right, you can search that way. There's so many. Organization type. So that's going to be, and again, you don't have to necessarily use this, but maybe you are looking for corporate giving programs. There's a lot of options again here that might work for your particular type of search. You could change this, right? Maybe you know that you specifically are looking for an exact dollar amount. This is a slider and you can change to the exact grant amount. I frequently change years because I really don't think I want all information from 2003. I usually go back about 5 years. Again, this is a slider. So I generally say about 5 years. Now, if all of these options, you don't find what you're looking for funding is so specific and so unique that you don't find it in any of these drop-down boxes, you could just do a keyword search. And if your term is going to be is entered in anywhere in like a funder's profile, you'll get results. And then finally, if you have an EIN number, and again, you just want to look up an organization real quick by EIN number, you can do that here. So that's all of, all these different options for how to search. So I had created a couple of search strategy, just example searches. And the first one I had was, I said, I'm looking for funding for an animal welfare nonprofit in El Paso County, and I'm seeking funding to expand the volunteer program. So how would I search for that? And I will give this a try and see. Every time I do a search, it comes up different. And what I want to remind everybody is that when you put in too many search options here, when you fill in too many boxes, your results are going to be very small. When you put in too few, your results are going to be way too big. So what I always tell people is you're trying to find that sweet spot. You really want to find that perfect search strategy that enables you to get not too many and not too few. And also remember that your first search may not be the right search. You're going to try again and again and again, and you may branch off, and you may, find different avenues within this database, and that's okay, right? But it's not something that you can do 30 minutes on a lunch hour, right? This takes time. So like I said, I could search through all these and see if I find animal welfare nonprofit, or I could just start typing, and up will come options for me that have the word animal in it. And look at that, here's animal welfare. So I'm gonna select that, and you'll see immediately it will select everything underneath it. So if I don't want research on animals, I would need to unselect and only select those that I want. So, but I'm just gonna, for the ease of this, I'm just going to just select animal welfare. And then in my funding need, I said El Paso County. So I can again just start typing El Paso County, and it's going to give me a bunch of different options. And Colorado always comes up first because I really don't know, because Arkansas would come before Colorado, but no matter what, for me, this one always comes up first. And my population served, I don't think I really need that. But what I'm wanting to do is I want to seek funding to expand my volunteer program. So again, I'm not going to put anything here, but I'm going to look here, type of program support. So I'm, again, wanting to expand my volunteer program. So I'm going to just type in volunteer. And here I get volunteer development. So I'm going to select that. And I think I'm going to leave that it, because I generally find between 2 and 4 seems to be the right number for me as to filling in my search boxes. And I'm going to see what I get. And so it's telling me right now up here at the top, it's showing results for this particular search. And I'm going to scroll down, and I get nothing. And so it means that I'm going to have to change my search. And this happens all the time. So I'm going to go, what should I change? Well, I still need, my subject area still needs to be animal welfare. And I really don't want to change volunteer development. So maybe what I should do is take out El Paso County. And when I do that, note, you're going to have to take it out up here as well, or it just keeps it. So I've taken that out, and I'm going to change it. I'm going to just say Colorado. I'm just going to do statewide. And I'm going to come down, and I'm going to hit that search button again. And we're going to see what we get, if we get anything this time. I still got nothing. That's weird. I did this earlier, and not that long ago, and I got results. Well, I'm going to clear everything, and I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to say animal. Nothing ever works right when you are demoing There we go, animal welfare. Again, I'm going to try Colorado. Sometimes it gets stuck, which is why I'm redoing it again. Again, I'm going to go to that. I'm going to try volunteer. I'm going to change this again. And I'm going to search. And bingo. So, you may just have to clear all and go back and try again. So it's telling me that there's 11 grant makers who in the last 5 years have given funding towards animal welfare with volunteer development in the state of Colorado. There were 6 grants and 14 recipients. And if I want to dive down into 990s, I can search those 990s. So first I'm going to talk about the grant makers. So it immediately shows me 5 of 11 results. And again, as I talked about, it is sorted by grant count. I'm going to say view all. And when I view all, I get these boxes on the side. And I can, if I want, select all of them, or I can select just a few that I think are the best fits for me. And up here where it says tools, you can download a PDF of the results or a spreadsheet of them. And then you can email a PDF of the results, or, which I highly recommend, you bring your own laptop to the library. You hang out in the Robert Hilbert Nonprofit Resource Center there at the Penrose Library, and that's going to be in the Carnegie section of the library if you haven't been. And that's a space just for you guys to go and hang out and do your research. And when you bring your own laptop, you can download these results as a PDF or as a spreadsheet directly onto your computer. There is a computer in the room. You are more than welcome to use it. That's what it's there for. But you're going to have to use that email function. So I'm not going to select these right now, but I find this interesting. CarMax has a foundation, and they have awarded the largest number of grants with this particular search results. So we can see that they have funded $2,000. I also want to note here, this is relatively new, maybe the last 6 months, they've added this column for RFPs. And it will tell you if there's any open requests for proposals with any of these grant makers. And as we scroll down, we can see that they don't have any, there aren't any open ones. That shouldn't stop you from looking at these funders. So let's go into one of these. If you hover over it, it'll give you a little bit of information about it right away. But if we select it, we're going to get their profile page. And right at the top, we can jump to their contact information or their who's page, so who's on their board. So we first get the charts that show what they fund the most, where the money is going, and how big the grants are. So they don't give very many large grants. Most of their grants I see are less than $5,000. You can click on these for more detail. And remember, this is only available to dive more deeply into these charts with the professional version. You get stopped and asked to pay if you are on Essential. So if we want to see a little bit more, it's going to tell us, that 204 grants to 70 recipients in, over $400,000 were awarded here in Colorado. So that's what you get a little bit more information. You can even see additional information, how much the common grant was. You see a little bit more about their funding interests. And but I'm going to go back. So those are, that's information that you can glean out of these charts. Sometimes I just glance at them right away because I want to see where what do they like to fund the most? What are my chances, right? Is this going to work for me? I need a grant for more than $5,000. I don't know if these are going to be the people for me. So now it's telling you that they have funded these different recipients and how much each recipient received. And again, it's always going to showing you grants, and this was our search that we did. When you go down a little bit more, it's going to show you their funding interests. And so again, you're looking to see, are you the right match with this organization? And so you can look a little bit more into the subjects that they fund and where they fund and what support strategies they fund. So right here, there's volunteer development because that's what I selected. And they're going to talk a little bit about their affiliated company here. You can get more information. Some of this is filled out quite in detail, and others it's not. So here's that other funders to consider. Now, if I were to select one of these, what will happen is it will bounce me over to this funders profile page. So I'll lose where I'm at right now, and it will get me over there, which is great. You just have to kind of keep track of where you are. Or you maybe want to write down what your search strategy was and if it was successful, and that if you end up somewhere else in the database, you can get yourself back to where you were initially. So again, I could select on this, and sure enough, here I am at this funders page. So that's great, but I'm not done looking at CarMax. I find that really fascinating that CarMax is giving money for animal welfare. So this navigation on the left-hand side is going to bounce you a little quicker. So some people just want to know, I want to know what the limitations are, and they just immediately go and look at the limitations. They don't even scroll down through everything else. But here's information. So an application form is required. What's their initial approach? Well, it looks like you need to complete an online application. The board meets these particular months, and there's no deadline. Oh my God, what a great foundation. So here's their giving limitations. So you're going to read this really carefully, right? And make sure that your organization fits and is, not going to be rejected because of limitations. So they say they emphasize the greater Richmond area, but we saw, right, that there were organizations that got funded that were here in Colorado. No grants for business ventures, debt reduction, political campaigns, right? So you're going to look at all that. And no vehicle donations. Those are CarMax. They're like, I'm not giving away cars, I'm giving away money. If you want to know more about their financials, you can do that. And here it's telling you can get to their most recent 990 if you'd like to know a little bit more. If you want to know how much the folks on the board of directors, how much money they make, that's going to be on the 990. Here's that who's who section I was talking about. Maybe, again, somebody on your board knows somebody on their board. You can get a little bit more information. This is not always filled in because it doesn't always tell who the donors are, but you can see that this is obviously a nonprofit attached to CarMax, and so the donors are CarMax. And if you want to read what is happening in with CarMax Foundation, here is information. This is what they shared on Twitter. Here's some other news articles you can read up on their most recent news. And then finally at the bottom is their contact information, and of course an email and additional information that you might need. So that, and then we can just go pop right back up to the top. And so that is that's looking at a funder profile, a lot more information than you might get from Colorado Grants Guide, but again, different types of databases. So now if I want to get back to those were the grant makers, but I want to go and now look at recipients. So these are grants, and again, within the last 5 years, what grants were given and to which recipients. So you can look that again, grant amount, but I want to look at recipients. So, I am a animal welfare organization, and I am curious where an organization that's similar to mine, where they're getting funded. So I can go through and look and see how much money they received in grants and how many grants. So maybe I'm similar to Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity. And by the way, the silver, bronze, and platinum, that refers to their other, to Candid's grant space, where you can put in your information and show how transparent you are with an organization. And that can be really important. Oh, sorry, I said grant space because I was looking at something. I meant GuideStar. So this reflects how transparent this organization is. The more transparent you are, the more information you provide on GuideStar, you get a higher level. So platinum is the highest. And it can be really important. So if somebody comes to my door and is soliciting money, I always check GuideStar first to see a little bit more about that organization. So some donors do that, and funders also, doing their due diligence, might look at your GuideStar profile. So just something to think about. But so I'm going to go and look at Blue Spruce Habitat for Humanity. And I get some more charts here. They've received, and some more information, they've received 79 grants from 22 grant makers, totaling over $400,000. What type of grants are they getting? They're getting a lot from independent foundations, 50% from independent foundations. They get some corporate money, they get some government money. And then where are the funders located? There you're getting some information, and how big are the grants. They've gotten a couple, they got one large grant. Their most common grant amount was $10,000. That's pretty amazing. And so you can think to yourself, well, gosh, I'm awful lot like this, this organization. Well, this is interesting. This is housing development. I'm not quite sure how we ended up on that, but this is what happens. And I might then go look at Mark and Linda Kistler family and see if I might be a good match with this grant maker. So, this is though what happens, right? You have to hunt through these and figure out which results work and which don't. I'm going to guess that volunteer development really popped in, and that's how we ended up with Habitat for Humanity. But here, Colorado Animal Rescue, that might be more similar. Again, we're being told it's a recipient. Again, how many grants, how many grant makers, and how much they've received. And this is always within the last 5 years. And in 2019, they got money from the O'Shaughnessy Foundation. And so when we go into that grant, we find out how much it was, who the grant maker was, who the recipient. We get a little description about the grant. And it's showing me that their population group was homeless. And where specifically, so that was Glenwood Springs. And so you get a little bit more information. And so you just might then go, I'm going to go look at the O'Shaughnessy Foundation. I end up on their profile, right? And so then I can, again, scroll down and find out, well, this is board meetings vary. Letters of inquiry are not being accepted this time. See Foundation website for updates. All right. This might be a great opportunity. So that is, as you can see, right, I have gone from one place to another and back and forth, and some things are not applicable to me, and some things maybe are very applicable to me. I can go through another one. Somebody could call out a type of funding that they might want to do. I'm going to go back to find funding. I'm going to go to advanced search. So I can do another one. Or if somebody has a question or wants to try a separate funding, I'd love to know if anybody's trying this right now at home. Anybody want to share? Okay. Oh, you're watching? Okay, Charlotte. All right, that's fine. Should I do another search? Do people want to see another different type of search? Okay. All right. Another search. Okay. Does anybody have any suggestions, or do you want me to just do, just pick one? Okay. All right. I will pick one. I will do, let's see, how about a religious organization in Colorado who's seeking funding to expand its outreach to people experiencing homelessness. So what I'm going to pick out of that one is that I am a religious organization, and so that's actually a little different. And you will find in the limitations a lot of funders not wanting to give to religious organizations. So you need to take note of that. And I'm seeking to expand outreach to people experiencing homelessness. And I'm just in Colorado and I'm looking for funding in Colorado. So we can either choose the subject area can be homelessness. Because we can hear under shelter and residential care, we see homeless shelter, housing for the homeless, or it can be population served. And I think I'm going to save it and put it over for population served, but geographic focus, that's easy. I'm going to do Colorado. And again, I'm going to do under economically disadvantaged people, we've got homeless. And I'm going to expand my filter. And I'm under organization type, I think would probably be where I might, let's see. I'm looking for, let's see, I am a recipient and I am a religious institution. So I'm going to select that. Again, I'm going to change my years because I really don't want all that data from all the way back in 2003. And I'm going to see what I get. And wow, I got 402 grant makers. Now that might be too many. So I might want to adjust my search in order to bring that number down, because 402 grant makers and then over 1,000 grants, but 52 recipients. So, right, we can see Denver Rescue Mission, Springs Rescue Mission. They've received 133 grants. So while this was a good search, right? Remember the first search I did last time, I got 0 and I had to go back and adjust my search. This time I got too many. So I might want to think about my statement that I came up with and go, how can I narrow my focus a little bit more, right? You know, maybe I'll go in here and so I'm not quite sure. Let's see, maybe I'm looking for, maybe I'm going to work on homeless shelters, or I could just say shelter and residential care. And let's see what that does when I have adjusted that. It brings me down, but not by too much. So again, I might go in and you could add a second subject area to bring it down. Maybe I also want to help with mental health care as well. I could select that and see and adjust my search. And that still doesn't really change. So there's just a lot of grant money out there, a lot of results, a lot of funders out there for those who are looking for funding for homeless people experiencing homelessness. So I'm going to now, though, do one more search. So I'm going to go back to find funding. Again, I'm going to do my advanced search. I just want to point out, actually, if you want to just quickly search an organization, you can type in an organization. So I could go, if I just want to look for the El Pomar Foundation, I could immediately just do that and I get straight to their profile. You can always click on Foundation Directory on this logo here or over here by the little magnifying glass, and that will get you back to the Finding Funding page. So let's go and say a performing arts nonprofit in Colorado Springs who's seeking support funding to expand its youth program. So again, I don't have that, my handy dandy sheet up that gives me all the different subject areas, but again, I can just start typing it in and see what comes up. So I see under arts and culture, I've got performing arts education. And so I'm going to say performing arts. Okay. And I said Colorado Springs. So let's see, doing Colorado Springs is going to really narrow my focus because it's being very specific. So we'll see if we get any responses. If not, then maybe I would expand my search to El Paso County and then maybe Colorado if I don't find what I need. And then I said that I want to seek support to expand my youth program. So again, I could go to age groups here and I see children and youth. And so I think I'll just select children and youth. Although I'm really not talking about infants and toddlers. So you know what, I'm going to do that because I'm really not trying to expand my infant performing arts. And again, I'm going to change this and go to the last few years and search again. And I found 19 grant makers. That's pretty good. 19 I can handle, right? 500 is a lot for me to go, or even 339 is a lot for me to go. But 19, that's super doable. So I see, I'm going to view all because I want to see all 19 funders. And wow, First Horizon Foundation, they've given 8 grants. Again, no RFPs. And honestly, guys, the only RFPs I've ever seen are for COVID. But maybe I'm just not looking, I don't know, for the right funders. So I'm going to first look here at First Horizon. I see their top subject is arts and culture. So that gives me hope. I'm going to see most of their grants, again, less than 5,000. That's pretty common, right? What's being funded the most? Arts and culture. Excellent. Does look like they give most of their money, though, to Tennessee. But they have given 15 grants here in Colorado in the last 5 years. I'm not going to even look at that right now. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go down and see what they require. Application form required. All right, you know, this is actually, they first want to complete online application, their deadlines. That's pretty amazing. I'm going to look at their donations. I mean, their limitations primarily in these areas, but like we saw, they do give in Colorado. No grants to individuals. Okay, that's fine. No support to religious right here, veterans, social, fraternal. Okay. So I go, well, this might be a good, you know, this might be good for me. And let's see, they've given money to these different organizations in Colorado Springs. Lots of money to junior achievement and young life. All right. Junior achievement got $5,000. Economics for vocal music. Well, all right. So again, and they give general operating funds. How nice. Gosh, this is a great, I'm having good luck, you guys. Because a lot of times I don't get particularly good results. So I'm going to go back to my grant search results. And one thing that I haven't showed you, which I should, there's a little box. Oh, shoot. Go back to my search results. So right here, if you don't want to find any, if you don't want any government grants to pop up, you can deselect that box. And that, you know, is helpful to some people. And if I view all, I can right here exclude grant makers not accepting applications. So that's a possibility too. So say I only want results showing me grant makers who are taking applications. So a lot of times what you will find, and it's funny because I almost always find them, is you see that there are funders who will not accept, see right here, unsolicited requests for funds not accepted. So you will see that a lot. And the main thing to keep in mind is that you may want to keep this funder as a possibility, but they are not going to work for you this year. But maybe you want to approach them and find out how can you get on their giving schedule. You go back to seeing if somebody that you know somebody in the funder's organization. You contact them and present your elevator speech, right? Either over the phone or a quick email that is very brief, but highlights why your organization would be a good fit with their organization. And so maybe you can get into their funding cycle in a future, you know, some future year. And so you have that option, right? You cannot see this funder, or you can decide, no, I'm really hunting for funders, not for just now, but for the future. So that is something that I wanted to make sure to show you. So, so that is really all that I have right now. I'm gonna stop sharing